Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do the usual disclaimers, if you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, we've got pertinent links right there in the description box. In particular, the ones most noteworthy are as follows. Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject. Pretty much everything we go through on this channel, except from different things here and there, all of it has been gotten from that exact archive. We've got links, articles, ER documents, PDFs. The receipts have receipts. So if you want to get more into depth and go over these on your own, that's going to be the link for you. We also got linked in there the article that had the JRC melting down so much that they have threatened a defamation lawsuit on them. Yeah, we are talking about the article written by Neuroclastic where they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. If a place like the JRC, that as we know, even though Hal continues to alert me, and believe me, I'm usually good at smelling out where the money's coming from. This particular time, however, holy crap, so convoluted, even I can't make sense out of it. And they are threatening a tiny, just started like few years ago, non for profit that barely brings in $10,000 in revenue per year. So if the JRC has decided that they are going to try to take the time and the money to intimidate them, there's something in that article they do not want getting out in the world, so please read it and share it on all your social media. We also have in there the GoFundMe for just in case the JRC tries to see through with their threat. Trigger warnings, folks, when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys. You are going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they're watching this, parental supervision is advised. I am, believe it or not, trying to get better with my language so that hopefully the algorithms can start picking up and more people can start learning about what's been going on in Canton, Massachusetts. But let's face it, it's me. I am born and bred an army brat. On top of it, also, stepdad, who's been raising me alongside my parents since I was 6 years old, is a truck driver. So I'm doing the best I can, folks. I am not known as a person who has really that much of a filter. Okay, and usually in the day to day, I don't care unless I have to go present or play nice with politicians that I would rather like cross the street and avoid eye contact with. Just saying. All right, so we're getting back to EL. Finally, after I was able to pull my brain out of the fact that apparently the so-called progressive state is so far behind literally everyone else. And remember, I am in a special level hell GOP landscape out here. And we are apparently more progressive and up to date in regards to how we handle our consumers. And we start from age circa 18, 19 to 26 to start transitioning folks from school residential programs or school community based programs into adult services. This person's still at the JRC. They are 55 years old. We also got into, once again, how the JRC prefers to do things, which is very, very, very bad attempts at a character assassination, victim blaming, on top of shock value, so that if they can get you an emotional and get you out of your logical side of your brain, I hate to say it, but as an observer of neurotypical humanity, y'all become a little bit more easy to manipulate. I don't like it, but facts are facts. And that's exactly why they do the things the way that they do. That's why I always point at the elephants in the room that your layman on the street is not going to really necessarily know to think about when they're reading through these character assassinations here. So we're going to be doing that again, and more than likely, it's going to be a whole video again on a singular sentence. So, starting back from where we were yesterday, let me get a little. Okay. All of these facilities attempted and failed to treat EL's severe SIB and AB with therapies and treatments that included reward systems for positive behavior, timeout, one-to-one staffing, and stimulus control planning, and numerous restraints. For the love of God. Like I said, I'm going to point out to the same elephant in the room that I have been pointing out to the JRC and have never heard a single time in the last nearly 20 damn years them ever address. Because this is what they do. They'll list out the therapies, they'll list out the schools, they'll list out the behaviors. They leave out all context. Any valuable information that will actually get a real eye on what the situation actually was, as opposed to what they want you to think it is. That elephant in the room is the same one that's always in the room with them. Well, multiple. Okay? Multiple. Let's say it again. JRC, please get some Q-tips, clean the wax out of your ears, and if need to, please go to the soundbar on your computer and turn the volume all the way up. Please repeat this sentence if necessary. It does not matter how many different types of interventions that have been tried and failed if the programs you are sticking these poor kids into are not being informed ahead of time by pertinent information that can be gotten from a full functional behavioral assessment. The reason why is none of these programs are the same. Some of them address very separate issues. A good majority of them specialize in one area or another. The whole purpose of that assessment is that before you are more officially put into the service system, you have pertinent information on hand that you need to know in regards to where your child's issues are that need to be addressed, so that when you are looking at these different programs and you are reading through the information regards to what they address and what they specialize in, you can make sure the program that they're going into is going to match with the areas they need the most help in. If you do not do that, it doesn't matter how high the school, the therapy, the psychiatric unit, or wherever else you want to throw them in is rated. It doesn't matter how skilled and expert with how many letters behind their name that runs those facilities and programs. There is no guarantee that the program you're putting them into is going to address what that particular student needs to be addressed. So, yes, you could be putting them in a very highly ranked, very well respected school and still have these behaviors still going on and getting worse and intensifying because you are throwing them in the program with not knowing whether that program will be able to address their specific triggers or not. For the love of God, do I need to duct tape a bullhorn to your ear and my mouth on the other end and repeat this until the judgment bell is finally chimed? Do I? Do I? I have not been the only one that has been addressing this over and over and over again. It has been brought up numerous times. Yes, even including during that 1986-1987 lawsuit. Okay? Where it has been asked, was there any kind of assessment whatsoever to help determine what the needs are before shopping for a proper program or treatment plan? I hate to do this, but I'm gonna do it again because I'm my own best example. Life experience. You get where I'm going here. Okay. Let's say that my more self destructive tendencies weren't so easily masked away when I needed them to be. Let's say I was not so good at acting being neurotypical like. So my aunt goes in, we get my diagnosis corrected. But instead of being in a school out here, I was in a school in Massachusetts. So right after diagnosis, instead of referring me to get that full functional behavioral assessment done, they suggested to her to reach out to a place like JRC, Easter Seals. I know there's some other places whose names escape me. Tobin World was still going on during that time. Or hell, maybe they would have sent me down to Circle of Help, where a lot of the females who happen to be on the spectrum got sent to, God forbid. Look that up sometime. Look that up. Twisted shit. Okay? Because I would be going in there without any information there to be able to inform me, my parents, my aunt during that time in regards to what kind of program was going to best assist and address those needs. And because of the fact that I have zero filter, and I have found that I've been a little bit unique within where I am in the spectrum, with a lot more of the physical meltdowns than females are known to tend to have because of the psychological damage that has been married to it. Guess what? Those self-destructive behaviors, those aggressive suicide by cop like type of behaviors that got really strong starting around between sophomore and junior year, I would have never left that 4-point board. My issues and the underneath the psychological damage and baggage that was flipping those triggers to cause and contribute to those behaviors would have gone undealt with. I would have been essentially using every single bit of my strength and energy to try to mask and suppress. And considering how much damn baggage there is, multiple, going back to childhood, years of it, it would have gotten worse and worse and worse, folks. And it's a very real possibility that had that been my journey instead of the one that I did take, I might not be around right now. They were that serious. Okay? And I've told you all about that poor kid I tried to help. But by the time I found even somewhat of an answer, it had already been too late. The reason why that story messes me up so much is because I've been there too. Not just from a professional capacity, but through lived experience. Okay? That's why those assessments are so goddamn important. No single program can address every single little thing. Okay? Programs have focuses based on where trouble areas are. Okay? Yeah. Usually they're also informed by comorbid diagnoses and conditions, which was very much the case with myself. In particular, the PTSD and extreme, especially in middle school, high school, anxiety disorder, and severe clinical depression that I was going through at the time. Okay? If I did not have that assessment done and be put in the weird kind of marriage of proper medication with my psychiatrist, my psychologist, my neurologist, my counselor, and several years of intensive therapy, and instead I was thrown into a place like this, I wouldn't have gotten better, folks. If I managed to survive it at all, after I left the place, there would have been major burnout And I don't even want to think about what I would have done after that. I remember how bad it was when I was 16. We're talking major suicidal ideation. Actively trying to inspire aggression towards me through others. Okay? Yeah. You couldn't just throw me into any old program after proper diagnoses and expect it to work. Putting me on a device like that would have only reaffirmed my own self-loathing of myself. That was very rampant. To be honest, I still have problems with it. They're just not as bad as they used to be and tend to only come out once in a while during some very bad moments. Back then, sending me to a place like this, considering where my problem areas were, I probably would have died. That's just being purely honest to you all. That's why I harp on this. There is no program that is able to answer to and provide for every little single difference in regards to how autism affects each one of us that has it. Because there can't be. We're night and day. That's why I have spent years hammering that treatment plans should be based on the individual more than even the correct diagnosis. Take that in consideration, yes, but if you don't form a plan around the entirety of everything that's going on, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. That assessment is vital because it provides the information that is it's going to be the best guide possible in regards to what type of programs parents, those within the circle of support, and us need to be looking at to best help us progress, become more interdependent, be able to be more out and about with our community without multitude of issues, abusing ourselves, or have people like these sick bastards at the JRC abusing us for us. Okay? If you don't have that, then every time you put a kid through a program, it's a Hail Mary. And you can't be shocked that these kids are being kicked out and thrown around from program to program and they're not working. Because you're not making a rational, well-informed decision in regards to those programs in the first place. If you don't do your homework first, whatever you're going to try, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work. And all those behaviors, I hate to say it, are going to get worse and worse because now it's also going to be leveled with self-loathing and resentment. Not just self-resentment, but resentment of everybody around you who keeps putting you into constant changing situations with nothing getting better. You blame yourself. You blame everyone around you. Believe me, I know. Okay? That's why that assessment exists. You can't just sit here like the JRC and list behaviors with no context and continue to never address, even once, even after being asked multiple times over multiple decades, did these kids have a full functional behavioral assessment done before going into the service system? Yes or no? Because if they did not, then it is not the child's fault that all these programs are failing. Because no one has any idea without that assessment if whatever place they are getting thrown to have a way to be able to address their specific problem areas. Okay? It's basic logic 101 here. Okay? The school out here that I've been a consultant on, Rivendell, which I'm proud to say has become slowly one of the top 20 in the United States. If I would have been diagnosed younger, that school system focuses primarily on positive behavioral reinforcement. It would have not been a good program to put me into. I had too many other comorbid diagnoses and too much baggage. I needed a program where I could feel like I had some control and some say. That way, it could actually feel like, well, I've got a dog in the fight, right? If I did not have that yay or nay, if I did not have some form of control in regards to my own treatment program, I guarantee you, folks, it would not have worked. Thankfully, the people around me, after we did that assessment, recognized that. And I became part of the person-centered planning pilot, literally just as it was coming out into Missouri in the early 2000s. And it's worked remarkably well. It's also included with coping mechanisms, some intensive therapy, and then when I didn't need that intensive therapy so much, so more, I kind of transitioned into the more counselor, and I have my psychiatrist to help me when the anxiety gets beyond my ability to control. You see where I'm going there, right? No program is going to work for your kid if you do not have the information available at your fingertips that you can look at and then match it to a program that addresses those issues. If you do not do that, the numerous times you send them from program to program to program does not matter. That is the point. What's the old saying? It's quality, not quantity. Yeah. So, let me go through a little bit of that sentence and we'll go ahead and close out for this video here. For one, positive behavior. I'm going to call out another little tiny elephant in the room here. You notice how they say positive behavior but not positive behavior reinforcement? This is one of the tricks that the JRC uses a lot, where they use similar sounding words to try and trick the human brain into thinking we're seeing something that is actually not there. Positive behavior, as well as the longer positive behavior supports, is not the same thing as positive behavior reinforcement. Those are umbrella terms in regards to different types of programs that fall underneath positive behavioral interventions. Positive behavior reinforcement is a very specific type of treatment plan and program that addresses particular things through a certain way. Okay? They're not the same thing. In fact, if you go back to some of the earlier videos or pull up Autistic Hoya's archive, you'll see in their address back to the New York report that was done in 2006, they actually admit that not only do they not know what positive behavior reinforcement is, that they don't even know how to implement it. So I wanted to make sure to point that out so nobody's caught off guard here. Time out. Of all the things on planet Earth that did not work in regards to consequences or punishments as a kid, time out did not work for me at all. Okay, so you're telling me I get to isolate myself away from people and stare at a wall without being forced to talk or socially interact with anyone or deal with people. Are you threatening me with a good time? I've got a wild imagination. I've been a writer since I was 10 years old. You have no idea how many stories I imagined happening in front of me on those blank walls, and how many hours I could do that on end, being completely amused. Okay? Considering most of the classes I had all the way up until, shot putting the desk into the concrete wall, pretty much everyone bullied me. So, again, you threatening me with a good time? Yeah, didn't work. Did not work at all. My mom was finally the one who figured that out, by the way. In particular, it was time out in my room, and she stopped doing that when she saw me, entertaining myself that way, but I was, lying on my back with my legs bent, apparently staring unblinkingly at the light bulb, and it just disturbed her too much. Yeah, okay. Sorry, sidetracked. One-to-one staffing. Here's something I need everybody to realize here, particularly with us autistic folk. One-to-one staff can make or break a program depending on the staff member involved. That's why I get so pissed with the JRC, our well-trained Karen. You put them in rotation after a singular week of training beforehand. Telling me they're partnered with more experienced staff does not raise my opinion of that particular practice. One-to-one staff can either be excellent, horrific, or completely exacerbate the problem, depending on who that one-on-one staff is. If this is a suggestion that is made, what I would highly suggest is that teachers, parents, talk to each other first, for the love of God, and work together to decide who would be the best in that one-on-one setting to help work with those problem areas. Because that can go horrifically bad in 0 to 60. Okay? I've told you all about how much I hate being condescended down to and talked to like I'm a little bitty baby in a cutesy voice, and how it tends to, encourage me towards violence. Yeah. Yeah. There's the reason why my mom dealt with a certain math teacher. That's all I'm saying. They decided pretty quickly that one-on-one stuffing within a school setting was a very bad idea. But if there's someone that I and my mom meshed with very well in regards to direct care staff, or in this case, community integrator, that would help me develop life skills, how to shop for groceries, healthy groceries, all of that, then it went remarkably well. So, parents, for the love of God and all it's holy, do not let your school choose on its own who that one-on-one staff is going to be, and make sure that it is very clearly laid out the context in regards to one-on-one staffing. Is it something within the school, or is it something that's better to be done outside of the school? Please hear me on this. You have no idea how often that goes horrifically wrong. Okay? And stimulus control planning. This is something I hate with my whole soul. Okay? My whole soul. And I know exactly where it comes from. It comes from ABA. What stimulus control planning actually means is desensitization. Most of us, I've gone over it on this channel, have severe sensory issues, right? Right? Okay. So, my best example of what they mean by this is you have some of us who have extremely, and I do mean extremely, hypersensitive hearing. Like me being able to hear the hum of every single fluorescent bulb that lined my high school hallways all the way into each classroom. That sort of thing, right? Some of us can handle it to a point, some of us cannot. But in regards to those areas where we do have sensory issues, let me be blunt. You cannot desensitize us in regards to our sensory issues by means of forcing us to get used to it. There is no getting used to it. It is horrifically painful in regards to sensory issues. The exact same level of horrifically painful every single time we're forced to deal with it. Okay? You can't desensitize me to get me used to it. I am never, ever going to be desensitized enough to be used to it. The reason why is I am not neurotypical. Where my particular sensory issues are, they're going to be at the same frequency and cause me the same amount of discomfort, anxiety, stress, and yes, even severe physical issues every single time, no matter how many times you try to desensitize me to it. It's never going to happen. One of the most torturous things you can do to a poor autistic human being is those of us who do have to use those noise canceling headphones to remove it off their ears to force them to get used to it. Listen to me, for the love of God. They are never going to get used to it. I will never get used to it. It's going to hurt me, make me stressed, fill me with anxiety, and put me in fight or flight mode. And trust me, with my bag of psychological issues, the last thing you need me in is in fight or flight mode. Okay? Stop it. You're only doing it, neurotypicals, because you are embarrassed. Because when we use reasonable accommodations, the other people looking at you make you feel embarrassed. Well, I'm sorry, Karen, it's not you who's feeling that horrific pain. You can be able to feel that little bit of shame so that your kid doesn't have to be tortured because of your emotions. Okay? Because I'm sorry, I've always told you guys I'm going to be real with you. With sensory issues, there is no such thing as making it less affect you. In other words, what you use on some neurotypicals for the billionth time is not going to work on us. So it does not even surprise me the smallest bit when the JRC said that they're trying this and the kid became more aggressive. You don't fucking say. Gee, whatever could that be? Could it be because they refused to listen to us for decades? After years and years of us telling them that we told you so? Stop with the desensitization bullshit. It's never going to happen. If it looks like it's happening, it's not. We are faking for your sake. And it's kind of messed up that we have to do that and sit there and suffer in silence because you don't want to be embarrassed because you're neurotypical Karen. Or as Paul said earlier when I kind of went off on someone, tell us how you really feel, Tiff. We're going to close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time, so please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. We'll go to the third sentence of this paragraph tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.